you're basically saying if you pay, have faith that it will get fixed.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay,
I'm saying that
I back off.
I'm saying if people don't see the results, especially we're coming along saying like, okay, everybody's going to have to like pay into this. They're going to say, well, fuck off. I'm not seeing the results. Right. Now, I think that's a nuanced story because the best results sometimes, especially when you're in safety, you know, my kind of a big part of my job, it wasn't just building, it was transportation, right? A big part of the results is what doesn't happen. Right. Good, bad things that don't happen.
You don't notice your school being good, you just notice when it's bad.
Yeah, and you don't notice your road being smooth, you just notice when there's a pothole in it, right? And you don't notice when an airplane doesn't crash. And you don't notice when you have clean, safe drinking water. By the way, that's okay, like that's the point. Like you shouldn't have to worry about whether your drinking water is clean. Because if you did, you wouldn't be able to worry about whatever else matters to you in life. So I don't think anybody can argue that the American taxpayer has gotten their money's worth. I think there's lots of reasons for that. Part of it is, though, that we underinvest. And we underinvest not because the overall tax rates are too low. I don't think that most people should be paying more in taxes. I do think certain people should be paying much more in taxes. And that's where we get to like the giant multi-billion-dollar corporation that figures out a way to do their books and pay zero, right? When
and then
they are
brag
doing
about
just
it.
fine.
Why is Warren Buffett bragging about it?
Well, I mean, it's look.
Tell him to pay up. Why the like don't?
But we can't. You can't blame him for using the rules of the system.
I actually like him calling attention to.
I find
because
that.
if they don't, if the whole capitalist system, for good and for ill, is that if you don't play that to your advantage, somebody else will, and they will beat you, right? So instead of asking somebody to leave money on the table, we should just fix the rules so that they're more fair. And that's the investment side. But the other side of it is throwing money at the problem is not enough. Like it is clearly true. And this is the other point about the Second Avenue subway, which again, I will defend to my death that it is a good project.
Have you been on it?
We can't, dude.
We haven't built it yet.
Bigger.
We haven't built it.
You haven't built it yet?
It's not there yet.
I remember reading about this in 2008 on the subway. They had ads. Coming in 2015, Second Avenue subway.
Right. So that's my point.
And we were so excited. Dude, there was like...
I was excited.
There was parades in New York City.
I was excited.
Dude, I'm telling you, there was parades in New York City. There was a memo sent out there like, we're building Second Avenue. We were like, our fucking Second Avenue subway!
That was the Puerto Rican Day Parade. They live off the east side.
I mean, it was...
But what is very hard to defend...
It was going to totally reinvigorate that economically destitute area called the Upper East Side.
What's really impossible to defend is how long it has taken. I'm not joking when I say it's been there for 50. The tunnel's there for 50 years.
It's a 100-year project.
It
got started in 1920,
which is nuts, and the cost of it.
But it's also not that. It's like obviously the rail project in California. We were doing a show in Hawaii, and it was a joke that everybody kind of makes, but there was a rail project out there, not underground, and they put $12 billion into it. It hasn't moved a centimeter in 10 years, and from my understanding from people out there, they're like, it's just pure corruption. It's not even bureaucracy.
I don't know that that's true, but I know that if you see that much money going in and you don't see results, I don't blame you for assuming it's corruption.
Right. Well, where could it go?
I think a lot of it is bureaucracy, actually, and it's the inability to get even basic things done. There are exceptions. We worked on, the one thing I worked on that I'm very excited about is another high-speed line that goes from Las Vegas to California, to Southern California. They could be open by 2028 if they hit all of their marks and everything goes well. There's some reasons why that was different, though. And part of why it was different was the public-private partnership, which created a different, and it's a red state next to a blue state. But it's California too, right? So it's Nevada and California. Sponsored by Nevada, which is a swing state, by the way, not a red state, I would argue.
Good point.
And
good point.
And they did some right-of-way stuff where a big part of the route is actually just like right down the median of I-15. So it's easy, comparatively easy, compared to having to buy. The problem with Second Avenue subway, the cost of it, sounds like you know a lot about this.
Loves trains.
Do love trains.
You're good. I love trains too.
Don't let him laugh at you.
No, I'm saying like this hostility to trains over here. So unless somebody in the room is on board with trains.
It's just you and I in this convo. Right. This podcast is now me and you. Just don't let them laugh.
We love trains and mostly right on top of them hoes.
So the reason it's costing so much here is to even like put in like a little power facility, let alone a station, you've got to buy real estate out in one of the most dense and expensive places, probably the most dense and expensive place in the entire world.
Most expensive buildings in the world.
It's incredibly complicated to even just do the signal work in the stations, right? Anyway, my point is, I agree that we have to have better results, better return on taxpayer money. But when it goes well, I mean, again, we're all living off of the value, even though the internet has proven to be a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Many people, including like these Doge guys, right, made all of their money off of something that was literally invented by the federal government, the internet.
That's a great point, honestly.
So it can work. I'm not here to say it always does work.
Yeah.
It can work, but you have to actually have people who care about it working versus just gathering their own power and making it all about
We're
them.
not, by any means, and don't let me speak for you guys, like hardline, the government is horrible and everything about it is horrible at all. We live in New York City. Like, we understand the importance of like rules and regulations. You got someone living above you and below you, they're blasting music. After 10 o'clock, you're like, I would like the government to step in here and make a rule where they can't do that. It's nice. So like, I think we understand more than most Americans how important regulation can be to you living like a happy, fruitful life. So if you're living in a house somewhere in the middle of nowhere, your next neighbor's 3 miles away, I get why you're like, government, get the fuck out of my life. I get it. When you live on top of people and below people, you see the
I think that's true. When you live in a city, when you live in a dense neighborhood, you're like more aware of the importance.
100%.
Although I'd also argue wherever you live, right?
Sure.
You count on things from national defense to railroads.
I'm not saying you don't, but I think that it's easier for them to ignor them.
Yeah, it's more
as
in
you
your
were
face
saying.
here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because you can't confuse yourself for not living. If you get on the subway, which I still can't tell if you ever have, you
What, me?
I don't know. I'm trying to infer.
I grew up. I was born and raised in the subway.
Okay, this is great. You're born
next to Madison Square Garden.
on a subway train.
I did. Listen, I know.
Okay, so when you're sitting on the subway car,
Name one stop. I'll tell you what it is.
You can't miss the.
One stop, I'll tell you what it is.
59th Street. Name any train. Name any train.
I think
Name your favorite train.
Sorry, I apologize.
I'm off sugar for Lent. Name your favorite train. I'll tell you my favorite.
No more fucking counting.
Guys, come on. We're saving America. Listen.
When there's big projects like that nothing happens, it feels like when construction, where it's like the construction crew tells you, oh, we'll get this done in 3 months. And then they take 3 years because they just want to squeeze it out. So it's like, we have no faith in government getting shit done because we don't see a lot getting done.
Less faith. I think,
less faith.
Yeah, I think and that faith
I
has
have
been
almost
reduced.
none. I'm going to be completely transparent. I have almost no faith anything will get done.
And I think that is specifically positioned on liberals. And I think that the Republicans have done a really good job of projecting that on Democrats. Like, you hear a lot of rhetoric, whether it's right or wrong, whether there's data to back it or not, who knows? But they've done a really good job of going, hey, look at California. Look how California looks. Look at these cities. They spent this much on homeless people, and there are even more of them that are homeless. Right. And look at San Francisco, look what's happening, people moving out of the city, et cetera. And I think they've done a really good job of marketing the perceived failures of Democrats in these states. How do you, as a Democrat, change that perception while not gaslighting the people who live there that do feel like their cities have I don't want to say have become ruined, but have definitely like decreased the standard of living?
Yeah, so I think first of all, you have to acknowledge why people are skeptical. And I do think that's, I mean, look, anybody who's been in a relationship knows that like if somebody's upset or pissed, like you don't start and say like you should feel better than you do. Actually, here's why you're wrong to be upset. Right? Like we can't be caught doing that. We
Is
are
it
rightly
easier
proud
doing
of
that with a dude?
No, it's the same.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Fuck. This whole time I was like, man, at least you could be like, you're wrong, bro. And they'd be like, yeah, I was.
No, I'm sorry. My side's got a lot to offer, but it's that part. That part's the same.
There's no loopholes in relationships.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay, please continue.
Where was I? So part of it's kind of that approach. Part of it is to demonstrate the things that are going well or that can be done well. So we talk about crime, right, in cities. And you would think if you watch like the Republicans that like every city is a like hellhole of crime. Now, if we respond and we're like, what crime? Then like obviously when you got like people getting pushed into the subway and you've got carjackings up, it's going to sound like we're just making shit up. If on the other hand we point to the fact that like Boston is at something like a 70-year low in the murder rate there. Or we point to the achievements in Denver under their mayor there about tackling some of the hardest problems in the world, like homelessness and housing. And having lived that as a mayor in a largely low-income community, like that is one of the hardest things that people working in government can ever try to solve, right? And there are people who are doing it well. And most of those people, in my experience, are Democrats. Now, they may not be like Washington Democrats or like federal, like congressional part of our party, but because I think the folks who are saying like government got this wrong, which might be true any number of times, what they're really saying is like the policies of this person in government got it wrong, but they don't have an answer. Their answer is burn it all down, right? If we haven't solved poverty, their answer is we're going to slash Medicaid, which is what the Republican budget moving through Congress right now will do, is slash Medicaid. Medicaid may not be perfect. In fact, I know for a fact, like many issues come up in the way it's administered, the way people have access to it. But I also know for a fact that if your answer to that is just to cut out a bunch of poor people, or VA, like any veteran can tell you, the horror stories of all the times things didn't go right in dealing with the VA. But if you think the answer is to just cut it or privatize it, that's not an answer.
Right.
Like, we can do better than that.